Okay, so welcome to my talk. My name is Hanna Landrus, as Matt introduced me. And today I'm going to talk about creating your own ethical framework. And so let me give a little bit of background on why I'm talking about this and kind of how this came to be something I've thought about. Okay. How many have been asked to put AI into a product in the recent history? Yeah? How do people feel about that? You're going to shout some thumbs down, some thumbs up. What does this mean?
I don't know. I'm just being excited.
Excited? Yeah, that's fine. Be excited. Anyone want to say words out loud?
Depends on the product.
Depends on the product.
His career has changed.
What was that?
Compromise and conflict.
Compromise and conflict. Okay, so there's some excitement, some compromise and conflict, some changing of what you want in your job potentially. So this is something that I experienced as well. So basically, winter of 2023, I was working at a company, at a startup, and they basically said, like, hey, we're going to put AI into the product. And that was literally what we were told. It wasn't, this is the feature we want in here, or this is why the users want it. We were just told, we're going to put AI into the product. And I personally had mixed feelings about that. I had been pushing to put certain machine learning features into the product, but if anyone remembers what was happening in 2022, 2023, ChatGPT, OpenAI was becoming very big, large language models still is something that everyone's talking about, but that was kind of when the boom was happening. And what AI really meant was put some sort of LLM into the product. And so I went through that. It led me to be a little bit less enthused about my job. There was conflicts that I experienced doing this process. There was things where I pointed out things about like, hey, like this way that we're implementing this large language model into our product is potentially going to like include hate speech or things like that. It opens up a vector for dangerous things in our product. And there wasn't really the same enthusiasm about the ethics. And so throughout that process, I eventually didn't feel super great about working at that company anymore. And I ended up getting a job as an instructor. So I left in spring of 2024, and for a year I've been teaching at North Seattle College. And I had an opportunity spring of this year to teach an AI and ethics class. And so that's kind of where this is coming from, is that I taught an AI ethics class this last spring. And this is kind of the framework that I use to think about how to inform my students of the ethical concerns with AI and how to help them build up their own personal framework. And that's kind of what I want to share with you. So yeah, but just out of curiosity, either in your schooling or in like, kind of continuing ed stuff you've taken online, how many people have taken some sort of course in AI and ethics or technology and ethics? So a decent amount. How many people, that's kind of a...
I mean, that was my whole last job. It wasn't a course. That was basically just like
that was what you did.
Job for 3.5 years. So
okay.
I don't know if that technically counts.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like you're very familiar with it. But yeah, I guess for me personally, I mean, I didn't get a CS degree. Let's say I got a math degree. And I didn't really necessarily have a course that was like, hey, here's how to think about potential ethical concerns that come up. And so I thought that was a great opportunity for my students, and I want to kind of share some of that with you. Paul, do you mind reminding me what time I have until?
I think you have until like 6:40.
Cool, thank you. All right. So just kind of some notes on this. I developed this framework as part of an AI and ethics class, so a lot of the examples are going to be with AI, but I believe you could apply this to other technical domains or other just general domains of your life, but that's what a lot of my examples are going to be. The other thing is I gave AI a very broad definition in this class. So the context of who the class was being taught to is data scientists at a junior level in college, and they're aiming to be potentially data scientists, data engineers, data analysts. They might even, some of them, go into software engineering. And so that's kind of like the context of what this is focused on. And because of that, I basically was like, any sort of data process that has a material effect on people's lives is what I'm kind of calling AI, and in the scope of like, we should do some sort of ethical evaluation of how we're applying these things. So even just like metric optimization, I'm called AI in the context of this class because through metric optimization, we have caused kind of some dystopian things to happen in our society. And so kind of a pretty broad definition of AI. And then just kind of a note, because this is like a whole course that I'm kind of condensing into 30 minutes, I'm going to give a lot of like, this is an exercise you can do, but we won't necessarily do all of them because we have 30 minutes. We got to get through it. So you're going to get homework if you want to do this yourself. All right. So step one. I really wanted to help my students establish their own ethical basis. So I believe probably all of you have some sort of moral compass, moral intuition, some sort of belief about the world and how you should act in it. And I kind of went through this process with my students to try to help them understand what their own moral basis is and help them develop that so they can take it into their technology world. So this is kind of the steps that I did. So first, this is a little bit of a note of something to keep throughout this thing, is that everyone's morals are going to be slightly different based on who you are as a person. So I've listed a variety of things about a person and their experience in this world that could change what their context is. And so kind of take these in mind as you're thinking about it, and then as you're thinking about how you're applying your ethics. Someone who has a lot of family obligations or a lot of medical obligations might not be able to be like as strict with their morals because they need to be able to provide for their family or pay for their medical care or whatever. So these all can lead to different answers to any kind of ethical dilemma you might come up with. Okay, so I tried to give my students a basic understanding of ethics. How many people have taken like an ethics philosophy or that kind of a course? Okay, so there's a decent amount of familiarity. Here are some links. I have answers on the next slide, but let's just see what people say. Does anyone know, could everyone give me a definition of utilitarianism? Yeah.
Maximizing the greatest number of good for the greatest number of people. What good means very complicated.
Yeah. You come up with some sort of measure of good, and you try to maximize that over your entire society. So the kind of the classic one for this is the trolley problem, where you're like, okay, how many people have heard the trolley problem? Yeah, you have tracks, and you have a trolley running towards 3 people, let's say. It's kind of sometimes set up differently, 3 people. If you pull a lever, it would go kill this other person. So the morally right thing would be flip the lever, kill the 1 person, saving the 3 people, and then people build on this and are like, what if it's a baby? What if it's your family? You know, all those types of things. What about Kantian ethics? Does anyone know what those are?
Categorical imperative.
Categorical imperative. Do you want to explain what that means a little more?
The principle is moral. If done at large scale, it's still
Sorry, can you say a little louder?
So something is moral if it's deployed in large scale, society still exists, or it's still around. Like if everyone murders, then society won't really be much more.
Yeah, so it depends on this, like, yeah, so I'm going to go into my next definition, but it kind of depends on this definition of knowing what is moral. If we don't want to have murderers all around because that would destroy the society. So yeah, so here is kind of the definitions that I kind of had. So Immanuel Kant argued that there's these universal principles like not murdering, and that you have these rational moral agents and you must follow these moral principles. And kind of the example, the kind of classic example with this, it kind of counteracts utilitarianism, is let's pretend that you are a sheriff in this small town and you have someone who has been accused of this heinous crime that like everyone in the town is revolting. And you know for sure that that person did not commit the heinous crime. But there's no way for you to convince the town folk that that person did not commit the heinous crime. And if you let that person go, then the town is going to go into chaos and there's going to be, you know, the purge kind of situation happening in the streets. And so utilitarianism would say, well, let's, you know, punish, kill, whatever it is, the single person that got falsely accused of the crime, because that's going to maximize the greater good of the society, versus Kantian ethics would say, like, no, we should not falsely, you know, give the death penalty to this person because that would be morally wrong. And so that's kind of like some of the difference here. So this leads me into, this was one of my fun, this is something I thought was fun. Okay, by a show of hands, would you rather have a Kantian or utilitarian super AI that's like controlling everything in society?
Kantian.
Raise your hand if you think Kantian. All right, what about utilitarianism? Some. All right, we're more towards some utilitarianism. All right, let's give a defender in each. Who wants to defend Kantian?
I think that if we had like 10% utilitarianism, everything, and then like 90% Kantian, it might be not horrible.
So you would like, you wouldn't kind of want this, like, I could get totally like destroyed if.
Yeah, everybody gets food, water, clothing, clean stuff, and then Kantian has the, okay, well, I'll help you do your job on these cool things. So it's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
The question with utilitarianism, how would you even implement? Because Kantian seems more easy to implement because it is just like these principles, like true, pass, fail, true, false kind of things. But then with utilitarianism, it's like, how would you actually get a model to like determine the greatest amount of good for the greatest amount of people and what is good? And all those things get a lot more difficult, I think, to like try to make it model that.
Yeah, I mean, we try.
Yeah.
We try.
I mean, the problem with utilitarianism is it might decide like destroying all of New York might be better for society because
Yeah.
it results in some public good. So.
Yeah. Did you have a defense of utilitarianism?
I kind of just, I think like, well, when I'm taking like AI course before, like, I thought of like, well, what if like, I guess AI, like, you know, they were saying like AI can take over the whole world. And I guess utilitarianism, like, I guess it's possible that, I guess utilitarianism, that's where like AI is kind of more like, kind of branched out and kind of just like, what if it like takes over like our daily lives, like we're like going grocery shopping, like AI's got it covered. AI's gonna give us a nice piece of steak or ribeye, and like we didn't have to like think twice.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so we're gonna do, one second, let me take a time. Okay, so I have 24 minutes. All right, we're gonna push this conversation into socialization hour because I have too many slides left. But let's have this discussion during the break between things. So So I started by giving them kind of an idea of different ethics, types of ethics, and kind of some theoretical questions that are fun. The next thing that I had them do is start to think about their own values. So think about what brings you fulfillment in work or life. I had them do this value assessment, which this one I like. There's some that I don't like, but it gives you like a list of like 4 things that a group of people might value, and you're supposed to basically rank them for your own personal thing, and then it tells you, this is mine. Apparently I don't have power or achievement or tradition. Self-direction and benevolence are apparently pretty high for me, and universalism. What?
Yeah, you conspicuously left one of those unsaid.
Tradition? Oh, hedonism. I mean, that's a little bit lower. So for these, I see these things less as like total directions in like who you are, and more of like similar like so I don't know, astrology stuff where it's like it's more about the conversation that it starts. And so like, you know, whether or not this is like really what I believe about myself, it makes me think about like, okay, wait, no, I do really care about having power maybe. And maybe I disagree with that, and that just sparks something in me. And then this right here is a good resource. So the idea here is that you spend roughly 80,000 hours in your career if you work like what a typical person works. And so this kind of gives your framework for like if you want to think about what an ethical career would look like. And so that kind of is a good guide to start to think about your values there. So I had them do these, and then I had them work through this exercise. How many people have done 5 whys with root analysis? Cause. Okay, so this is where I went a little bit nerd. So in software engineering, there's this concept of the 5 whys. And if an incident takes place, so let's say your like website crashes or something, you go through this process that's called the 5 whys, and you ask, why did it crash? Well, because we didn't have enough resources. Why didn't we have enough resources? And then you kind of are trying to get to the root cause of this. And so that's what I had them do. So this example here is you're a vegetarian, and what is the underlying belief? What is kind of the core belief as a part of that, and asking kind of why is that important, and digging in deeper and deeper and deeper until you kind of get to what is kind of the underlying root to your beliefs. So I had a lot of students do different things on environmentalism, on like their family being like the most important thing in their life, their traditions and their values. So this is kind of just digging into why do you believe the things you do. All right, so that's the process for step number 1. Step number 2 is to research and understand issues that you're likely to encounter. So this is really what the bulk of the class was that I taught. Because we had 11 weeks, and I kind of worked them through a bunch of different issues. I'm going to give you kind of my takeaways from that, and I'll show you some of the resources that I used, but we're not going to necessarily go deep into researching the ethical issues with AI, because there's a lot. This is my cat Tater.
If I fits, I sit.
Yeah, this is in my box. I really encourage you to focus on the here and now rather than sci-fi fear-mongering. So that like super AI question is like really fun because it's like, but there's real things that are happening in criminal justice, in loan applications, in all these kinds of things that dictate our lives that of using machine learning, using AI. And it's better to focus on those things that are truly impacting us right now rather than these big, bad, scary sci-fi things that could potentially take place in the future. They can be kind of fun to think about, and you should think about like what's coming next. But I really try to focus on what is happening here and now. I encourage you to put concerns into context and look at multiple sources. So one of the things we talked about was large language models use a lot of resources. So this one is an energy comparison. And so put it into context of what is the right context to put it in? How does it compare to things like watching a show on Netflix? How does it compare to all these other things? So putting the numbers, if you're looking at numbers, putting them into context, doing things like comparing it to if everyone did it to, so this is like my impact if I do a ChatGPT call versus drive a car, and then comparing it to if everyone did it. So I can link you to where this comes from, but really thinking of trying to put your numbers in context when you're thinking about them. And then figuring out the laws, regulations, and that govern the space that you're thinking about. So